bridging the gap between serving time and freedom. Hello, I'm Richard Pyatt, and this is Conversations with Corrections. Joining me today, along with Executive Director Jared Garcia, are Chiefs Bart Mortensen and Randall Honey to talk about community correctional centers and the importance that they play in our institution. Let me start with you, Executive Director Garcia. And when we talk about our overall mission of working together, transforming lives, and protecting communities, how important are CCCs in doing that?
Well, they're critical in our mission. You know, we always talk about how 95% of our population are going to exit our prison facilities and they're going to enter our communities. And the community correction centers really bridge the gap between the prison population and entering the community. They allow opportunity for people to continue to receive resources, whether it's access to housing, employment, other treatment, other type of programming or education. Really, it's an opportunity for us to connect them to the resources that are needed to be successful, because at the end of the day, we do not want them to go back to prison.
Chief Honey, you've been with the UDC for a number of years. We used to call it, as a society, we used to refer to CCCs as halfway houses, now an outdated term. Since you first started here, how has that concept, or the CCCs as part of the institution, changed and evolved to what we have today?
So really, the term halfway house really talks about being halfway out and halfway in. And it's kind of an antiquated, notion or terminology, because we want them to feel as they are a part of the community. We know that they have struggles, that they have some resources that they need. We want to provide those there. We don't want them to feel like they're still halfway in prison. We want them to feel that they're part of the community. They're on parole. We want them to succeed. So trying to change just that terminology, because words do matter.
Chief Mortensen, let you weigh in on that. What has it been through your experience?
Very similar. So when people refer to these centers as halfway houses, rules, procedures, our approach, our mannerisms are based on, here's a person that's only halfway out of prison or halfway on their way back to prison, and we'll just approach our true mission differently. Just removing that one word and calling them what they are as a community correctional center shifts the entire approach around our work. So,
and I'll just even add in, it even adds, that terminology alone changes the way our staff think and the parolees. If they think they're halfway into prison, they're going to start thinking like an incarcerated person. We don't want them to think that way. We want them to think about being successful, being having those opportunities, and being really able to achieve what they need to do on the outside.
So changing the mindset
right.
is a key component of this, and that can be a challenge because people get used to, if you're in a place for 15 years, it's only natural that you're just going to get used to the daily routine and the way things are, and you've got to change.
Correct.
You've got to
Chief Honey and
making them change for their own good, essentially.
For sure. And Chief Honey and I have had dozens, if not hundreds, of conversations about the importance of our words and our actions being in alignment. So if our philosophy is one where our primary role is to help people succeed, our action should support it. So a simple word change becomes a very important thing.
So there's no question that substance abuse is a major problem for many of the people as they're even released from prison. Chief Mortensen, maybe you can talk to us about what the treatment options are for them as they enter the CCCs and how they can maybe make it better for themselves to do the right thing for themselves as they are released into society.
Sure. Can I back up maybe one level before we go into the treatment options and
Sure.
just emphasize the difficulties a parolee has. The expectations of a parolee is to wake up, be responsible, engage in substance abuse treatment, be a good dad or mom, have a job, do all of these things, and there's just the status of them being a felon makes it even more difficult, and sometimes increased difficulty when transportation is hard and things like that. So having a center there with a treatment option essentially removes some of these other burdens while they're engaged in treatment, so that when they finally complete treatment, then they can go take on the responsibilities of normal society.
That makes sense.
As far as treatment options available, people will come to our centers to receive substance use treatment, sex offender treatment. They'll also receive a lot of risk reduction based on whatever needs at the point of assessment. We also have a group of residents there that are there for stabilization or transitional services. This might be a person that is struggling on their own in the community or was unable to complete their release plan on time or just simply doesn't have any pro-social support in the community. So we'll bring them to our center, we'll help develop some skills, and eventually they'll stabilize and can get released. And then we have a third group of people that are really just struggling in the community. They're unable to get their footing, and they're high risk of non-compliance of their parole conditions. So that's another group we'll bring to our centers and provide some specialty treatment to hopefully get them back on track and divert them away from prison.
Sure. Chief Huddy?
Well, one thing I'd like to add, just back to your drug treatment, is how big a part is our mental health or the parolees' mental health in that treatment. A lot of people use illicit drugs to help cope with their mental health diseases. So in those treatment centers, we offer mental health treatment, classes, everything for them to help identify what is the underlying cause, why they're utilizing this. We see it inside of the prison facility as well. And so just continuing that on the outside is a major step for them to just overcome those addictions and understand why they're there.
Director Garcia, it seems. Oh, go
No,
ahead.
I wanted to piggyback on what they're talking about
Sure.
because I think this is a good opportunity for us to talk about the importance of alignment and ownership from all members of our staff. You know, when someone's entering a CCC, they're really, we hope, at the end of their journey within the criminal justice system or get nearing the end of their journey. And I've heard often since I've joined corrections where correctional officers will call themselves just correctional officers. Mm-hmm. I think we've talked about this on this podcast before, but everybody that works here is much, much more than that. If someone is leaving prison with a drug addiction and going on parole and entering a center, we probably missed the boat somewhere along the way. And so I think it's really important for our staff to understand the important role that they play. It's not just to guard people, it's to actually understand them, to care about them, to own their success from the point where they enter our system, to document very well the good things they're doing and the bad things they're doing. And it's hard to hold people accountable sometimes, but accountability is a part of caring as well. If we hold people accountable in a meaningful way, we create opportunities for people that are behaving. This department's going to continue to move the middle. And when people get to the community correction centers, they're going to have a higher likelihood of success and not returning to prison on a parole violation.
It seems like this is a really important point that can't be overemphasized, is that we're there to help them and monitor them, and in fact, as they are making that reentry. That seems like a very crucial role.
I wonder if I could piggyback off Director Garcia. It's been very fun the last few months watching each role in the center. In the centers, we have very highly trained security staff, highly trained clinicians, highly trained caseworkers, and each of these groups are coming to that individual and adjusting their treatment plan. It's been a lot of fun to watch as they find a need for this resident that's not working. They come together, they adjust fire, and they try it again. It's been pretty impressive.
Because the failure rate seems like it would be high if you just released from one of our other main facilities and then you're just like dumped out onto the street.
Also imagine the frustration for the resident if people were just saying, that's not my job, that's somebody else's job.
Right. Chief Honey, what about the educational opportunities at the CCCs? Are there many?
Yes, so we know that through nationwide studies that education plays a very large role in recidivism. We know that getting an education is going to help the parolees get better jobs, actual jobs that they can live off of, support their family off of, pay off all their fines and restitutions with. So we continue on. If they've started their higher education or even high school education inside the institution, they go out to one of our community correctional centers. We will continue on with that with the school districts in the counties they're in or with the higher education. A lot of these are online. They're done through our portals that we have at the community correctional centers. So we encourage that. However, we also encourage the students to do on-site training as well. We have a partnership with Davis Technical College. So anytime that they're receiving certifications on the inside, they can finish that free of charge. They'll continue on outside. And they've even tried to arrange transportation up to their Davis campus just to get them back. So yes, there are education opportunities, and that's one area where we really encourage people to continue on. But as Chief Mortensen said, there is a lot of pressure and a lot of getting everything done while they're on parole, making sure they have an address, make sure they have a job. All of those tend to come first before the education, but that's where our caseworkers really step in and try to advocate for them and help them get through that.
Okay, and then how is the education funded? Are the institutions donating that, or do we have to pay them?
So if they start out in the higher education inside of the institution before they go out to the community correctional center, they actually get them through a scholarship, depending on, some have grants, some have federal grants, and some have through the Pell Grants or a scholarship foundation that they've already set up, and those continue on with them after they release.
I think we'd be missing a critical element if we forgot to mention all the volunteer services that occur inside the centers. And some of those, one is the Ensign College that offers support for residents there to go through school and get their degree and GED, I believe.
Well, and I'd like to this just came up last week. So Ensign College, they're an amazing partner. They actually have a program where anybody that's enrolled in Ensign College, a scholarship will go out to their family members. Well, they asked and they got approval for that for our offenders that are enrolled in Ensign College. Their family members can get a $1,000 scholarship towards Ensign College. And so they're just a really great partner that are really trying to see the needs, not of only the incarcerated individual, but the entire system. All people that are involved, they're trying to, coordinate with them and really advocate for them and get them the sources they need.
Yeah, and Director Garcia, those partners seem so crucial. I mean, it sounds like we're really grateful for their part in helping us with this mission too.
Yeah, I'm appreciative of Chief Mortensen bringing that up because our volunteers do play a critical role. But to your point, also, we have many service providers throughout our state that are trying to help people to prevent them from reentering the criminal justice system or prevent them from becoming homeless or even continue in an addiction to narcotics. And at the end of the day, all those different groups can end up in our prison facilities if we don't provide the resources that we need. So that is another part of our job. We have a team that is working really closely with, and they work closely with R&R and Chief Honey and Chief Mortensen to build these relationships, maintain the relationships, make sure we're well coordinated. And at the end of the day, we couldn't do this work without all of those different groups participating.
So they've got the education piece, I guess, as they're working on that, or after they've done that, they transition into the workforce. What is it like for them to find employment or do work release while they're in the CCCs, Randall?
So this is a struggle, but this is something that we're excited about because we're making a lot of headway in this area. So finding people that are actually felon-friendly employers, give somebody a second chance. We're identifying those, and we're working with our partners here in our own department to identify those employers and really just go out and build a great relationship. We want to supply their workforce. We know all the offenders that are going to be paroling in the next 60 days. We can start working on those lists, get their resumes built. We can actually do online interviews before they get out and hopefully get them hired. But if not, at our community correctional centers, we actually hold a monthly job fair now where we invite employers to come in. We've held 2 of them now, one at Fortitude Treatment Center and one at our behavioral health center. And we invite the employers to come in. They do on-site interviews. We've actually had a few of our parolees hired right there on the spot. We have Department of Workforce Services there to help out with any of the challenges of getting the right equipment, clothing, things like that. And so we are actually actively engaging our employment partners, businesses, corporations all around the state of Utah, especially in Salt Lake City, where the largest population is and our community correctional centers are, and really advocating for our offenders. They are great workers. They're going to be overseen by not only our community correctional centers, but our adult probation and parole. And they have to stay on a strict regimen. So they end up being some of the best employees that we've heard of from these companies. And so instead of just before it was go find your own job, go door to door and try to find a job. That's not how jobs are being done anymore. We've got to get them online, and we've got to get in front of them and actually advocate for this person to get a job. And that's what we're doing. And so we're very excited about this.
Can I speak real quick to a fourth group of people we serve as it relates to a work program? We have inmates that are actually leaving prison a year, sometimes a little over a year earlier than they should, to come and live in our centers and work in our centers. They help cook, they help clean, they help do those things. And this also speaks to a major benefit of the centers in the community is just capacity issues. If we're releasing a handful of inmates a year earlier, that allows for a bed for a future dangerous felon that needs to go back into prison. Also, I think last year we served probably 1,650 different residents in each one of our centers, and that allows for timely releases so people aren't staying in prison longer while they're waiting for transitional plans, and plenty of diversion away from prison, so just helping with the capacity issues inside the prison.
I would say also, just to piggyback on that real quick, the legislature is holding us accountable to our availability and ability to keep people employed. So we do track that very closely, but also we're starting to track living wages. We don't just want these individuals to get jobs. We want them to get jobs that can support them and their families. So that's an important aspect of this, is finding them jobs that provide that living wage. And in order, these both of the chiefs touched on it, in order for them to do that, we have to prepare them with the right skills for them to find those opportunities. So, and I would just add that both these chiefs and their team in the Reentry and Rehabilitation Division are doing a phenomenal job of that.
How are the CCCs involved in the Chief Honey in the supervision of parolees, or those that are on parole?
So our residents at the community correctional centers are overseen by our staff there at the center. Sometimes they require an ankle monitor. Sometimes they require just to be living there at the center, just depending on how they do. But we have a lot of our residents are gone all day long, and they have to check in periodically. Us working with adult probation and parole, we work hand in hand, because if somebody were to go and violate their parole, maybe we can treat them at our community correctional center before sending them back to prison. We would like to keep people out of prison as much as we can. I know that sounds counterintuitive because we work for the Department of Corrections, but we really, truly want to be successful in delivering all of these resources. If somebody stumbles, we know they can have a second chance. And if we can pick them up at a community correctional center rather than having them go right back into prison, where they could end up doing longer time or not getting the treatment in enough time, or just being in not as a close environment to receive those treatments. We want to do that at our community correctional center. So we work hand in hand with our adult probation and parole officers to see who are the right ones to come back to the community correctional center. However, that being said, those that are risk to the public, we are going to send back to prison.
Okay. Are there any programs or services that CCCs provide that I haven't asked you about yet?
At some level, we do some community service. So we'll work around our areas for beautification purposes, oftentimes in service projects of some sort. There's a few interesting things that are happening. One maybe up in northern Utah Community Center, Community Correctional Center, and one down in Timpanogos, where the caseworkers and the staff are doing what they can to get their residents actively engaged in the community. TCTC Timpanogos down in Provo is doing a walking program every single Monday, where they'll go out in the community, they'll hike, they'll walk. So just be actively engaged there. And then I wanted, because I feel like I miss a critical element, talk about the previously justice involved people that are in our centers giving back. They might be off paper, they might not be on probation or parole anymore, but they are back in our centers giving back, providing certified peer support services and things like that. So it really speaks to the idea that when reentry works, it really, really works, because now that person that we used to spend our time, energy, and effort helping is back in our centers, giving back to us. So,
Where are our centers, and how do they interface with the community in which they are? Do the folks that work and live around where our centers are placed feel like they're good neighbors? Do we have support all the time, or is there a little bit of difficulty there?
generally, it feels like we have partnerships in each one of our communities. When we have events or things going on, we certainly tell our neighbors about it. There was new business coming in to one of our other centers, and as they were building it out, it turns out it was a daycare. So the lieutenant over that center walked over, introduced themselves, and said, "This is what we do. I don't know if this is going to impact your business in any way, but wanted to tell you before you finished what you'd started." So it feels like we have really good partnerships in our community.
But we have them north, south, in the middle,
Yes.
east and west.
So we have one in Ogden, 4 of them in our Salt Lake County, and 1 in Utah County in Orem.
Okay, that sounds like we got it pretty much covered.
Yeah. One thing I'd like to highlight that I think we should showcase too is how previously we had to have anybody that was receiving medical service, specifically dental services, you'd have to just send them out and go find a dentist on their own, or go to a free clinic. We've actually partnered with Denticor, and they provide on-site dental checkups, cleanings like that for our residents right there at the site. They have a mobile unit. They come on site, and that's a big benefit to our residents because now they're not out looking, less chance of them getting into trouble or coming across a risk, but also just that's one less headache they have to worry about, and they can focus on the bigger items that they have to get to.
Director Garcia, I'm just wondering if you have anything else to add about the CCCs, or if you have a message to the people who are partnering with us and working at the centers, and a little bit more about the importance of their work as we start to close.
I think I have 2 messages. Number one, I just want to express my gratitude to Chief Honey and Chief Mortensen and their teams, because our centers have ongoing, or they've taken on a lot of change this year. We've moved them, or over the last year, we moved them out of AP&P and into the Reentry and Rehabilitation Division. We've really reimagined what staffing looks like in those agencies or in those centers, and what case management looks like. And our staff has just really taken on that responsibility with a really positive attitude. And we are noticing big changes for the better as we help people to reenter society. So thank you to both of you and your leadership and what you're doing, and to your teams. And the other thing is just I want to reemphasize what I talked about earlier, and the term the word we hear, just. And I'm going to challenge our correction officers and our team to remove the word just from their sentences when they describe themselves. I want to hear, I am a correctional officer, and I help people to turn their lives around, and I hold people accountable, and I help prevent drugs from entering our community, and so on and so forth. Because in order for us to elevate this profession and to properly educate the community, we have to quit minimizing ourselves. We have to really tell our story, and our people have amazing stories to tell. I fully intend and expect for us to be the best correctional agency in the country, but in order for us to be that, people need to believe that they're more than just something. And so my challenge to staff is be more than just. Think about the possibilities of what you can do and how you impact public safety, and be the very best version of yourself every single day.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm not just saying that because I'm sitting here, but I honestly can't imagine how anybody that's going through our system would have the chance that they have without the CCCs. I feel like these programs are essential. and
They are. They're critical, and
fulfilling our mission.
we think we need more, and I think our legislature sees that, and I think there's a lot of discussion on how we can continue to improve these environments, and we have the right team in place to do that.
Hey, thank you. Thank you very much for your hard work. We appreciate your hard work and your dedication and service as we continue to work together, transform lives, and protect communities. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
This has been Conversations with Corrections from the Utah Department of Corrections. These podcasts are on our website at corrections.utah.gov or on the UDC YouTube page. Suggestions for a future topic can be sent to corrections@utah.gov. Thank you for joining us.